In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. The most intense testing and training regimen on the planet might be the aptly named Hell Week for would-be Navy SEALs. One particularly intense part of it takes place in a swimming pool. So candidates are put in scuba gear, dropped into the water, and then they go through what is called the drown-proofing test. So once they're in the water, instructors start to swim down and tie their oxygen lines in knots. It's not about strength, it's not about speed, it's about what do you do when things go wrong. The goal isn't to scare you, although let's admit it, that would scare most of us. The idea is to replicate a situation where there's just chaos. And what do you do? Do you panic? Do you freak out? Do you lose control? And I read a story about this one guy who was tough, strong, smart. He had aced every other part and passed everything with flying colors. But then when he was in the water with his oxygen lines kinked and alarms starting to go off, he froze. Later on, he would say that he knew what to do. He had practiced for that moment. But then when his brain was telling him that he was not getting enough air and this is an emergency, he forgot what to do next. His lungs started burning, the vision started to dim, and the only noise louder in his ears than the water was that rising wave of panic. Eventually, an instructor pulled him out of the water, and coughing, gasping, humiliated, all he could say was, "I just couldn't think. I forgot to breathe." And I hear that and I think, same. Most of us aren't underwater in a pool, but we know what it's like to have that rising wave of panic, that chest-tightening fear, that mental fog that sets in when your life turns sideways and your brain won't stop thinking about every scenario that it possibly can. And maybe it's a phone call, a diagnosis, a deadline, a relationship that's starting to unravel. And we tell ourselves we're going to be fine, right? We're prepared for things like this, right? But when the pressure is on and the alarms are going off, we forget what comes next. We freeze. We forget to breathe. And that's the thing with anxiety. It doesn't just all crash in always at the same time. Sometimes it creeps, sometimes it builds, sometimes it drowns us quietly. Anxiety can be a really tough thing to pin down because there are times in your life when it's good, normal, even healthy to have some anxiety. It keeps you away from danger and helps you prepare for big things that are on the horizon. Everybody has worries about their health, safety, and the future, but most people are able to measure themselves or at least turn the concern switch to off. Clinical anxiety is an entirely different story, though. I found this kind of funny quote on the internet about anxiety. Anxiety is literally just conspiracy theories about yourself. I mean, it is kind of funny, but I thought it did a really good job of explaining anxiety. And we really need to understand it, because even if you don't go through clinical anxiety, did you know that 7 out of 10 people who took an anxiety screening test last year had a moderate to severe disorder? You don't need me to tell you that's not healthy. Clinical anxiety is a serious problem that needs serious help, but one of the biggest problems is a lot of people with anxiety have trouble talking about or expressing their anxiety. I thought this quotation did a really good job of that. "I wish I could tell you exactly what's the matter. There really is no one thing. It's sort of everything. There's a constant fear that something awful is about to happen." If you like taking notes, let's write this down for our first solid truth note this morning. Anxiety can feel like constant noise. if you suffer from an anxiety disorder, you can have panic attacks, you can suffer with obsessive compulsive behavior, your fears can feel magnified. The anxiety can cause you to not ask for help because you're just so embarrassed that you let things get this bad, which adds even more anxiety on top of it all. If you are struggling at all with any of these things that we're talking about today, I want you to know you're not alone. And there are so many different ways that you can reach out for help. You can even give me a call and tell me what's going on, and I'd be more than happy to help you and get you pointed in the right direction. But while I'm doing that, I'm definitely going to share a song with you. This real, personal, emotional song. A song that sings about peace, tranquility, and serenity that you can only find in one place with one person. This is Psalm 23. It's printed in your service folder. I'll have it up here on the screen for you too. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is the word of our God. This is probably the most well-known psalm, bar none. I've read it more times than I can count. And that's not just during my personal devotions. It's because when I'm making shut-in visits or visiting somebody in the hospital, or if I'm with somebody and it looks like the Lord is getting ready to call them home soon, they always request this song. And I think I know why. I read it at the beginning of funerals too, and I think I figured out why it's so popular. For one, it's really simple. The pictures are simple and easy to picture in your mind. David didn't waste any time when he was writing this one. He moves very quickly from point to point. But I don't think those are the big reasons why people love it so much. They love it for its depth and strength. They love it because it's the most peaceful and serene song in the entire book. You can just imagine sliding on the noise-canceling headphones and listening to this song when you just need a little peace and quiet. It doesn't matter who you are, your age, or what you have going on in life. This song can give you some peace and tranquility with those very simple words, "The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing." And that phrase, "I lack nothing," is a really important one when we're talking about anxiety. Because one of the side effects of anxiety we didn't talk about earlier was feeling inadequate. It's feeling like you can't measure up to everyone's expectations for you, like you don't have the right stuff. You even might just feel like you flat out are the wrong person to do this kind of job. And you can see how dangerous those kinds of thoughts would be for somebody who is feeling anxious, because those things feed off of each other. It starts this spiral of feeling inadequate because of your anxiety, and then your anxiety continues to make you feel even more inadequate. It's not a good place to be. Here's our next note. Anxiety makes me feel like I can't measure up. Now, there are a lot of different ways that people try to deal with their own anxious thoughts. And the first one might be the most troubling. They just hide it. But it might also be the most common too, right? You can hide your anxiety behind a wall of being calm, collected, and organized. You can suppress it all underneath all of these amazing achievements, but you don't have to be a trained psychologist to see what's wrong with that. People who hide their anxiety with a strong type A personality, a lot of times they suffer from overthinking, being really hard to read, and they end up needing validation from other people with just about everything that they do. So hiding your anxiety, that cannot be the answer. You could try using your anxiety, just like you did back in your college days when you had a big paper due the next morning and you would stay up all night typing furiously, fueled by nervous energy and adrenaline. I've done some of my best writing that way. Okay, I've done some writing that way. Maybe you wouldn't call it my best. I even found a website that had the very clever 7 ways to turn your anxiety into productivity. Doesn't that sound great? But it's not sustainable. You can't keep doing that forever. Eventually, you're going to burn out. Eventually, you won't be able to harness and control your anxiety anymore. And then, what are you going to do? Where are you going to turn then? And then there's the long list of things to do whenever you have anxious thoughts. You can exercise, eat healthy, get a full 8 hours of sleep every night. Some people will even tell you to meditate or do something like that. And those things are supposed to help, and I'm sure they do to a certain extent. But, and maybe I'm just speaking personally here, when I'm feeling anxious, the last thing I want is to feel like I have another list of things that I have to do. That just compounds my anxiety and makes it even worse. So what are our options here? Do we just succumb to it? Just accept that anxiety is a part of your life and it's always going to be there and there's not really much you can do about it? Because if you feel that every single time you reach out for help or try to do something about your anxiety, you just end up feeling like a failure and then wondering what to do next, and then it adds even more stress to your already overflowing plate, what's the point of even trying then? Psalm 23 is a song about a shepherd. And a shepherd takes care of sheep. And sheep have that bad reputation of being neurotic, not very smart creatures. There was a video going around on the internet a couple of years ago of a sheep stuck in a ditch, and these guys pull it out. It runs down the road a few feet farther and then promptly falls back into the same ditch. But sheep aren't as stupid as we make them out to be. They're not dumb, they're dependent. Without some help and guidance, sheep are at a total loss. So maybe it isn't the most flattering picture in the world in Psalm 23 to think of yourself as a lost lamb who needs help all the time. But I think that's actually what makes the picture in Psalm 23 so comforting. That even when we are at a total loss and think, I have no choice but to keep falling into the same ditch over and over again, this song comes in to remind you to stop, look around you, and take stock of a very important truth. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. God doesn't invalidate your struggles. He isn't distant and impersonal when anxiety is weighing you down. No, he is with you. He promises that he is never going to leave your side. You have this assurance that because your good shepherd is with you every step of the way, no matter how dark that valley may get, he is never going to leave your side. Here's our next note. The good shepherd walks with me always. Have you ever noticed how personal this song is? It doesn't speak in generalities. Like David doesn't talk about God's love and help for the world or his nation or anything like that. No, the Lord is my shepherd. He makes me lie down. He leads me. He comforts me. My cup overflows. This psalm is just a great reminder that God doesn't outsource being there for and helping you. No, he is personally present. And you get to see the depth of just how personal that presence really is when God sent the Good Shepherd. God took his comforting presence to the next level by taking on human flesh and blood. And when Jesus was walking on this earth, comforting, teaching, and healing, he knew exactly what role he was fulfilling. I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the Good Shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. You can look in other places for relief and comfort. You can try to find peace and serenity somewhere else. But if Psalm 23 and Jesus' own words make something very clear for us today, it's this: nothing can beat the peace and serenity that you find under the Good Shepherd. Because this shepherd is in it for the long haul. He lays down his life for the sheep. He didn't turn tail and run when that role required him to give up his own life. No, he marched to the cross. He marched to his own death so that you could find lasting comfort under his care. He walked through the valley, the dark valley of death in front of us so that we could walk through it behind him in peace, comforted. Because our Good Shepherd is with us and he will never leave us. With Jesus as your shepherd, what are you lacking? Money? Food? What about time, love, peace, or forgiveness? You lack nothing. He gave up his life to provide for you completely so that you would have absolutely everything that you need. He rescued you from lions, bears, and wolves that try to carry you away from his loving presence. He rose from the dead and ascended into heaven and now rules and guides all of history for you. You lack nothing. Our last solid truth note today: with Jesus, I lack nothing. How often do you think about that? How often do you just kick back and enjoy that fact? I lack nothing. Because God himself is your Good Shepherd, you don't have to be anxious about anything. You get to enjoy green pastures and sit next to quiet waters. Even when anxious thoughts start to attack you and try to overwhelm you, you get to run back to the loving arms of your shepherd and remember those words: he restores my soul. Instead of a cup filled to the brim with anxiety and stress and all of those other things the world tries to burden us with, you get to sing, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. We have so many blessings in Jesus. Our cup is overflowing with them. We have more than we could ever need or use. And I'm not telling you to go out and quit your job or anything like that. But I'm just saying that with a little bit more of this song in our lives, those feelings of inadequacy that feed our anxiety and vice versa, those feelings just start to melt away. Because I realize it isn't about me and what I can accomplish. It's about my Good Shepherd and everything he accomplished for me. You can see why so many people request this song when they're at a point in their life where things are just completely overwhelming, where it's just too much for one person to handle. There's a peace and serenity that comes from knowing that Jesus is your Good Shepherd that he's right there next to you, guiding you through all of it, and that he isn't going to go anywhere. I hope you don't feel like I'm trying to slap a Band-Aid on your anxiety today. There isn't an easy fix when it comes to dealing with it. But my prayer is that you just recognize this song as part of the solution and treatment when anxious thoughts hit. That even when the world or your own thoughts are trying to weigh you down with those thoughts of, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough time to get all the things done that I need to get done, I'm not even the right person for this kind of job. Here's my prayer for you today. When that happens, I hope you slide on the headphones. Tune out all that noise and listen to the peace and serenity that comes from the words of this song. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.